Martin. Thank you, Rabbi Lawrence, and Johnny Aricho Yamim as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to try and finish today Rabbi Weiss's essay on this question about davening at the same time as other people, even if you're not physically with them, or with a minyan if you're not physically with it. And we left off on Friday with the, I think, very interesting example of Rosh Hashanah, where the Shulchan Aruch notes, commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch, just to refresh our memories, that an individual shouldn't daven Musaf by themselves before the first 3 hours of the day, following the halachic clock, Sha'ot, Zmaniyot, but only at the time when the Tzibur is davening. And similarly, the Magen Avraham, one of the great commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch, says it's the same for blowing the shofar. If a person unfortunately is at home and has to blow the shofar by themselves, or even someone comes to blow for them, then they should wait until the time, ideally at least, when the community itself is going to be davening and blowing the shofar. And somehow there's an importance to blowing the shofar at the same time as the community, or at the very least not beforehand. Now, Rabbi Weiss delves into this, and he says that since there is some benefit and some importance to blow the shofar in this way, even though no minyan is required for the shofar, you don't need to have 10 in the same place for the shofar. You can blow the shofar anywhere, certainly by yourself if one would need to do so. But he says what these examples that we brought, particularly this one relating to Rosh Hashanah, show that in a place where there is something which requires a tzibur, somehow there's a benefit of a tzibur. This benefit of the tzibur is not entirely dependent on whether there is a minyan together or not, but instead it's dependent on the power of people davening the tefillat rabim, this phrase we've seen before several times, davening together at the time, the Sha'at Ratzon, at the appropriate time, the best and most propitious time for davening. So this, I think, is a very important idea for our purposes, that there is tefillah b'tzibur, which we've discussed, and that's a minyan minimally being together, but there's also tefillah rabim, that somehow, even if people are separated and are disparate, to be doing the same mitzvah activity at the same time has a power to it. And this, he says, quoting various other sources, is one of the reasons why, as we discussed, if a person can't daven with a minyan, it's good to daven at the same time as the minyan is taking place in shul, or wherever else the minyan might be taking place that you are linking to, because somehow that you are part of tefillat rabim in that way. So Rabbi Weiss says in his conclusions to this topic, he says, even though he hasn't found explicit and clear proof for saying that it's good to daven, that there is this power of tefillat rabim, nonetheless, he says, based on the examples that we have seen, that it's appropriate to fix a specific time of davening every day, as we and many other communities are doing online, where everyone would daven together, even if everyone is in their own home. And just bear in mind that Rabbi Weiss was putting these, as we discussed months back before and around Pesach, Rabbi Weiss is putting these responses together on an almost daily basis because of the incredible pressures and the necessity at the beginning of the coronavirus outbreak. So his output in doing this, in gathering all this material together and analyzing it so quickly, is really quite remarkable. And he then finishes off by saying that in addition to, as he's recommended, people davening at the same time, even if they are not together, he says there are other benefits to this, which I'm sure we can think of and we have seen. That he said that in the very sad times when shuls are closed and everyone has to daven at home, it's all too easy for people not to be able to, or to get out of routine, if I can put it in that way, not to be able to daven at the right times, things to slip, etc. Particularly Zmanei Tefillah, the appropriate and correct times to say the Shema and say the Amidah, and without having this kind of anchor of people davening together, that can be a big problem, and therefore he says that through this strengthening of people's own tefillah, let alone this idea of tefillah rabim, something very significant is accomplished and very important is accomplished. And he also then, the final paragraph says that it's also good, as we are doing and many others, that one person serves as a shliach tzibur and introduces and closes off the various paragraphs as you would normally do in shul. He says, of course, this is not davening with a minyan. We know we can't say dvarim shebikdusha, but he says it helps anchor people. And he says, beautiful alliteration in Hebrew there. So is appropriate and so is pleasant to do. And hopefully, this not only gives us an anchor, but there's a chut of tefillat rabim and will help us for when, please God, the shuls will be opening again in the sooner rather than the distant future. So Shavua Tov, have a great day.
Amen.